All right, so this is number 4 from May, June 2023, when they asked us to do a production budget, right? Prepare a production budget for each of the first 2 quarters of 2023. So a production budget is exactly what it sounds like. You're budgeting or you're estimating how much you'll need to produce in the future. So you see how they have 4 quarters here? Quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. You're going to budget or estimate how much goods you'll need to produce for each of these quarters. All right, now they said Brooklyn Sal is the owner of 2 businesses, Brooks Technologies and Brookie Computer Supplies Limited. Brooks Technologies manufactures components used in the production of computer monitors, and the forecasted sales for the components for each of these quarters are presented here. So in Jan to March, they expect to sell 6,000. April to June, they expect to sell 8,000. July to September, 12,000. October to December, 16,000. So this is how much they expect to sell each quarter. You're following so far, right?
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't necessarily mean that is how much you need to produce each quarter, because you're not sure what their requirements are, and you're not sure how much goods they have already. For example, if in Jan to March you expect to sell 6,000, but you already have 2,000 units, then how much do you need to make?
4,000.
4,000, right? So all of those things you have to take into consideration when you're doing a production budget. You have to take into consideration how much goods you have already, and if you need goods for anything else besides just sales. So let's read the other information they gave us. They said, see, Brooklyn's policy is to maintain a closing inventory sufficient to cover 25% of next quarter's sales. So not only do you need to make sure you produce enough for sales, you also need to produce enough for the closing inventory, because the policy is you have to have a closing inventory to cover 25% of next quarter's sales. The opening inventory for the component on the 1st of Jan 2023 is 1,500 units. Prepare a production budget for each of the first 2 quarters in 2023 for the components. So before I go down to the answer, let's see if we can figure it out ourselves, right? So in the first quarter, we already have 1,500 units. That's what they said, right? They said we started off January with 1,500 units, right? So you already have 1,500. How much do we need to produce? How much goods we need for the quarter? So we're ignoring how much we have already. Let's look at how much we need. How much do we need for sales?
4,000.
Ignore what we have already. If we ignore what we have already, we need this amount for sales, right? Jan to March, 6,000. So that is how much they expect to sell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they said we need to have a closing stock sufficient to cover 25% of next quarter's sales. So not only do we need to have enough for the 6,000 sales, we also need to have enough for closing stock, which is supposed to be 25% of next quarter's sales. How much is next quarter's sales?
8,000.
All right, so we need to have 25% of that, right? 8,000 by 25% is 2,000. So in total, we need 6,000 plus 2,000, 8,000, right? That is how much we need for January to March. You following so far?
Yeah.
All right. How much do we have already?
1,500.
So if we need 8,000 and we already have 1,500, how much do we need to produce?
6,500.
6,500. So you take our sales, the amount we need for sales, which is 6,000. We'll take the amount we need for closing stock, which is 2,000. And then we'll subtract what we already have, right? Less opening stock of 1,500. And what we remain with is what we need to produce, 6,500. So that's exactly what we're going to do. All right, we'll take our sales for the quarter, which is 6,000, add it to our closing stock, which is 25% of 8,000, and that will give us the total amount that we need for the quarter, which is 8,000. And when we minus our opening stock of 1,500, that will give us the total that we need to produce. So in quarter one, we will need to produce 6,500. Following over,
Yeah.
let's look at quarter two now. Quarter two, how much will we need for sales? Based on
8,000.
8,000, right? And how much will we need for closing stock? They said 25% of the next quarter. How much do we have in the next quarter?
6,000.
The
Oh,
third quarter,
12,000.
12,000. So closing stock would be 12,000 by 25%. 25% of 12,000 would be 3,000.
Mm-hmm.
So in total, the amount we need is 11,000. But let's look at how much we have already. Last quarter, we ended the quarter with 2,000 because that was our closing stock last quarter, right?
Yeah.
If we ended the ended last quarter with 2,000, then we would start the next quarter with that 2,000. It's like when you're doing a T account and you balance it. Your balance carry down is what you end that period with, and your balance brought down is what you start in the new period with. And you notice your balance carry down and your brought down is the same thing. It's just
Yeah.
like this.
Okay.
So your closing stock is like a balance carry down, and your opening stock is a balance brought down. So you end the first quarter with 2,000. So on the 31st of March, you had 2,000 stock. So that means on the 1st of April, because nothing changed yet, you would still have that 2,000 stock. So because we already have 2,000 in opening stock, how much would we need to produce? If we need 11,000 and we have 2,000 in opening stock, how much do we need to
Yeah.
produce?
9,000.
9,000. Which is exactly what we did for the second quarter. Take the opening stock, take the sales that we need, sorry. Then we calculated our closing stock, which is 25% of the next quarter, and we added it together. So the total we needed for that quarter was 11,000. Then we minus our opening stock from it, and that gave us the amount that we needed to produce. Because if we need 11,000 and we already have 2,000, then we just need to produce the remainder. Is able to follow?
Yeah.
All right, so that's how you'll do a production budget. Sometimes you might ask for quarter three, quarter four, maybe even ask all the way to quarter six. You just follow exactly whatever they tell you. If they say closing stock is 10% to cover the next month, the next quarter, you just calculate it. Whatever they tell you to do, you do it, and you stay consistent, and you're good to go.